Mark, 5 minutes until airtime on the Wake Forest Sports Network for our Coaches Show broadcast. Your next time cue will be with 4 minutes until airtime. Mark, 4 minutes until airtime here on the Wake Forest Sports Network for our Coaches Show broadcast. Your next time cue comes with 3 minutes until airtime. Mark, 3 minutes until airtime here on the Wake Forest Sports Network for our Coaches Show broadcast. Your next time cue will be with 2 minutes until airtime. Mark, 2 minutes until airtime here on the Wake Forest Sports Network for our Coaches Show broadcast. Your next time cue will be with 1 minute until airtime. Mark, network stations, we are 1 minute until airtime here on the Wake Forest Sports Network for our Coaches Show broadcast. Studios, please start your archive recording. Stations, if you encounter technical issues during this broadcast, please call the Wake Forest Studio hotline at area code 336-831-0819. Coming up on 30 seconds until airtime, Mark, 30 seconds until airtime. Once again, stations, if you encounter technical issues during this broadcast, please call the Wake Forest Studio hotline number at 336-831-0819. Stations, your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Wake Forest Sports Network.
Live from Miller's on Robin Hood, this is the Jake Dickert Show on the Wake Forest Sports Network from Learfield.
It's a great opportunity here. The foundation has been laid. We're excited to build on that.
Breaks a tackle, breaks a second, dives toward the goal line. Touchdown! Wake Forest with 1:01 to go.
Your weekly all-access pass inside Demon Deacon football is brought to you by Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist, the official healthcare partner of the Demon Deacons, and by a Legacy Federal Credit Union, the exclusive banking partner of Wake Forest football. Send your question for Coach Dickert to our inbox, wakeradio@learfield.com, or tweet @StanCottonWF. Now, alongside Coach Dickert, here's the voice of the Deeks, Stan Cotton.
Okay, good Thursday evening, and welcome to the Jake Dickert Show as we talk Wake Forest football for the next 60 minutes. And again, you can send those questions in. We've got a few stacking up here. wakeradio@learfield.com, that's the email, or on X @StanCottonWF. General Manager Rob Schlager is here. He'll be on the hot seat in about 10-15 minutes.
The evil genius of Wake Forest football. So I hope everyone has a lot of questions for Rob. How we do it, how we recruit. Been together for a long time, so excited about him being part of the show.
You said evil genius, and quickly his head turned on us. He knew exactly what you were talking about.
Well,
right?
he knows I'm talking about him.
Yeah.
He knows. But what a transformation of college football. Obviously, the general manager is a really big position, and how we do it and what we look for and the developmental phases and processes. And he's going to use a bunch of big words, Stan, that I've never heard of, that I get to use now because, we measure femurs, we measure tibias, we measure all kind of things to see their development, how big they're going to be, hand sizes. Like, he's got this big calculation of things that we use to find prospects and develop, and it's cool to see that side of it. So if you guys have questions for Rob, feel free to make sure you put them in.
We have one. It's been hot, waiting for you all day. So we'll get to that. I'm a hillbilly, so he'll be talking over the top of my head.
Yeah,
he'll be over the top of my head.
That makes two of us.
Over the top of my head. Anyway, and we also want to let people know that not this segment, but after our first commercial break, the first person to ask Coach or Rob a question live going to win the Frost Buddy here. Wow,
yes,
they're already raising
their hand. That's a big incentive.
I mean, huge. The hands just shot up
That's
there.
Right.
We'll give that Frost Buddy away a little bit later. Well, happy open date, happy bye week to those who celebrate. I know you've been watching some volleyball and doing some other things other than coaching football, right?
That feels good. I will say, we talked about it with the team. It is a little bit of a work week, Stan. I think as we've gone through it, I think having a bye week after, your first three games, we talked about it as a staff, is actually a really big positive. You get an opportunity to take a breath and really evaluate almost everything that we've done in the program up to this point. It's good watching it all together, right? Remove yourself from the emotions of Thursday night, which there were plenty in the second half, and we'll talk about those. But just to see where we're at as a football team, what we're doing well, what we can lean into, who we can count on, and then identifying areas that we got to get better at. And, that was about the last 3 days. We had a walkthrough. We had 2 hard days. We were in pads. We were hitting. I thought it was a real big benefit having 6 straight off physical days from the Thursday night game to get back on the field Wednesday morning. So putting all that stuff together, defense, special teams, and just kind of figuring out our personnel was really big for this week.
And that was a crazy 3-week period when you look at Friday game, Saturday game, Thursday game, 2 weather delays in the what?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot packed into that short time window.
Yeah, and I think there's been, all sorts of different challenges. We still have not yet, week 4, however you want to look at it, into the season, had a regular scheduled week. That'll come next week when we play Virginia, right? So I think our guys have handled it really, really well, balancing, obviously getting some academic things done this week I think is really important. And yes, having coaches have an opportunity to see their families and their kids play. Saturday I was at the Forsyth Broncos. We played the Pufftown Packers. I was at the Reagan volleyball game tonight. So it's good to still get back to doing our most important job, and that's being dad.
Then you've got 3 weeks, and then you have another open day, which I think when you look at it from 20,000 feet, I think that's pretty good. You get another, 3 weeks of games is a lot, and then another chance to sit back and say, okay, where are we now?
Yeah, by the time we get to that second bye week, and this will be part of like Rob's plan. We spent a lot of time, okay, where do we need to go forward? Who can we count on? What do we need to do? What do we need to bring into our organization? But also where are we really at after 6 games? Obviously last Thursday night was our first Power 4 opponent. They're going to expose some weaknesses too. So as we continue to go through the ACC schedule, we got obviously a ranked team coming, in Georgia Tech in the following week. So, they're going to expose some things we need to continue to get better at. But our identity on both sides of the ball is what we're really focused on, Stan. And it's running the ball, and it's something that's easy to see, well, let's run the ball more, okay? But as you dive into it, we really looked at and studied, it's the play entry, so it's the tailback track and staying on it and trusting it. It's offensive lineman hat placement. It's a lot of little details, that are leading to, some things not getting off the way we want them to go. So there's a bunch of things that we've identified that we're out there really getting after.
Talking Wake Forest football with the coach of the Deeks, Jake Dickert, on this Thursday night of, it's hard for me to say bye week. I'm the old guy. I want to say open date.
Yeah.
But no game this Saturday.
Yeah.
Next week, we're back to that Thursday schedule. The Saturday game with Georgia Tech, which is a noontime game, which I love. I don't know how you feel about noontime games.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's when college football was intended to play. Wake up, get out there, get to your early tailgates. I love it from a coaching perspective because you get that 4 hours of just breath after the game before you start back in the rat race the following week. So I'm home by 6 o'clock enjoying a beverage myself, hopefully celebrating a win. So I love the noon games. I love the 1 o'clock kicks. I think it was always what it was really intended to be.
I think most players, too, that we talk to, they kind of like that, too. They like getting up and getting loose and then go.
Well, the biggest thing for our guys, and remember, we are on a morning schedule, so they get kind of trained that way. And pregame meal is always 4 hours before the game, so pregame meals at 8. Our guys are used to getting up and putting in that time early in the morning.
Okay, we've got some questions we'll get to a little bit later. Again, we've got a microphone here as well. We'd love to engage with you live. And the first one to ask Coach a question after this timeout, we'll get this lovely Excel from Frost Buddy. So we'll get to all of that, plus Rob Schlager a little bit later as well. Lots to do tonight as we talk Wake Forest football here back at our home, Millers on Robin Hood. And we'll have more after this timeout as we talk Wake football on the Jake Dickert Show.
Line pass is going to be caught after a battle at the 20, down to the 10, 5, touchdown, Wake Forest.
Hey, Deke fans, it's your coach, Jake Dickert here. As you prepare for the tailgate season, remember to bring along some Pepsi. There's something special about tailgating in Deektown with your friends, eating some great food, and drinking some ice-cold Pepsi. It's the perfect way to get ready to cheer on the team to victory. Go Deeks!
Wake Forest tailgating is always better with Pepsi.
A golf instructor who knows technique can improve an aspiring pro swing. But one who really cares can help transform a career.
There he is, your new champion.
When you team up with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. At Truist, we believe the same is true for banking. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. Truist Bank, member FDIC, leading based on top 10 U.S. commercial bank.
Coverage of Demon Deacon football continues after these local messages. This is Wake Forest football from Learfield.
There's the snap and give. Claiborne pulls his way in. Touchdown, Wake.
Wake Forest football returns to a Legacy Stadium on Saturday, September 27th to take on conference rival Georgia Tech. Limited tickets remain. Order yours today at godeeks.com/tickets. We'll see you at a Legacy Stadium on Saturday, September 27th, as the Deeks take on the Yellow Jackets. Go Deeks!
Claiborne, Wildcat takes the snap, hands the ball left, a throw downfield, pass caught by Claiborne at the 10, 5, touchdown, Wake Forest. What a play by the Deeks. Razzle dazzle into the north end zone.
Hey, Deke fans, Coach Jake Dickert here. Looking for the ultimate game day spot? Head to Miller's Sports Bar on Robin Hood, where the wings are hot, the beer is cold, and every seat has a view. Catch all the action, all the time, only at Miller's.
Welcome back to the Jake Dickert Show. Want your question answered by the coach? Our inbox is available at wakeradio@learfield.com or tweet at StanCottonWF. Now back to your host, Stan Cotton.
Okay, rolling along on this Thursday night Jake Dickert Show as we talk Wake Forest football until straight up 8 o'clock. We're back here next Thursday, and then Wake and Georgia Tech on Saturday at a Legacy Stadium. Noontime kick, 11 a.m. on the air. Means we'll roll in this crew over here. We'll roll in, 8:39. Okay. Have a good day at the ballpark, as we like to call it. All right, time now for the Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist game diagnosis. Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, the official healthcare partner of the Demon Deacons. All right, let's talk about the state game a little bit. Your take on, several days removed now, and you talked about, a Big Four team. You ratchet up the competition a little bit. What'd you learn, and how do you think that game went?
Well, let's talk about the first half first. Right.
Pretty good one. Did a lot of good things. The opening kick was, you don't expect that, right?
Well, I just showed, and we had Chris on the show last week, right?
No.
Chris was there on the campus show, and, what a way to start a game. We talk a lot, Stan, about starting fast, and that could come in a million different ways, but it's always about competing and being ready for the kickoff. Just some amazing individual things. I know Chris gets a lot of the notoriety for that. Karate Brenson, amazing block. The double team took their guy into the Gatorade cooler. That's how they got the personal foul. Juju Tacky gets a great late block in the hole. Tate Carney clears it up, and then no one was catching Chris.
No.
I saw him break in the open. I put my hand up because he was gone. So amazing way to start, and then to get a defensive stop, add another touchdown. There was a lot of really good positives, and we had a lot of momentum flowing early in that football game. And, obviously we get a game changer. The pick six, obviously, on their side was a game changer, and I thought there was a good battle back and forth, and we continued to build that lead. We got some explosive plays in the first half. We hit Falai down the sideline. That was a big play. Barnes had another big one, beating their safeties. We felt like if we could get one-on-one down the field with their safeties, we could win some of those matchups. And obviously we did in the first half. And, their offense is tough. I think we'll talk about that a lot as we continue, through the show. The Bailey kid was as advertised. He, was on target and delivered some balls from the pocket. I think the Smothers is one of the better backs in the country as well. So we just kept swinging, and then, got them out of halftime, and obviously, they just leaned on us. And that's the word I think we used with the team. We weren't able to establish anything on offense. That was very disappointing. Couldn't get the first downs. And then eventually, when you have those things happening, defense can only hold up for so many times. They beat us on third down and in the red zone. Those are some big, places that we really identified that we got to get better at. And penalties. Penalties are just stoppers always of drives. And every time we felt like we had a big play or a scramble by Robbie, took it back on the penalty. So, just a lot of little things in that football game. That margins for victory, Stan, in the ACC will always be small, right? And there's those 5 to 7 plays that determine the game. Unfortunately, in the biggest moments, that went to our opponent, not us. But there's a lot of learns that we need to get better at and have a better response. Because the one thing we showed, the first thing we showed in the team meeting, I showed the fourth quarter score. Guess what that score was? 24-24. Okay, so whether you had a 24-point lead and you blew it, whether you were down 24, it doesn't matter. The final 15 minutes are on the clock. Reset the mechanism, and let's go win the thing. And that's something that has to be earned, and it's a belief, and it's every man doing their job. There's too many guys pressing in the second half instead of just doing their job, and I think we've learned from that, and we'll be a better football team because of it.
Coach David with a question. You mentioned Bailey and Smothers. He says, after seeing them live, and you gave the media thoughts about those two players prior to the game.
Yeah.
But you're down there at field level, you see them live. Bailey's a big, tall kid. Smothers got, he's got a lot of ability. But your take on those two players?
Well, let's start with the tailback. We went in saying with Smothers, if we can get his shoulders being away from the line of scrimmage, that we can corral him. And we did. We had 8 TFLs in this football game. Our stuff percentage was high, but at times when he's downhill and he's rolling, the one thing that we identified in self-scout, defense is about 2 things, okay? Leverage and defeating blocks. And we're giving away leverage at times. And I think that's what you saw out of Smothers, right? He bounced on a couple times and we had him for no yard gains. And the Bailey kid, I believe, will be like next year's top, 10 best quarterbacks. He's $1 million guy in today's world. He's really worked hard at that. I give him credit, but the one probably biggest difference maker that didn't surprise me in the game but probably exceeded my expectations was their offensive line. I thought they had a good game plan. I think they covered us up well. I didn't think we could get enough pressure on the edges. And anytime you see good quarterback play, are you keeping them upright? We didn't have enough ability to affect them. We had the one sack. That was a big moment in the football game. The penalty on one of the hits, I could go either way. I think that's a football play. I understand why they call some of those things in today's game by the rule. But, man, that's us playing fast and aggressive, and that was a big moment in the game.
And NC State was able to win over Wake Forest by the final score of 34-24. And there you have the Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist game diagnosis. All right, we're going to sneak in another timeout. Again, first person that waves his or her hand. All right, there you go. All the way in the back. We'll get to him right after the timeout. And we'll talk more football with the coach of the Deacs right after you hear this.
Hey, Demon Deacon fans. Are you ready to level up your tailgate? This season, Little Richard's Barbecue is teaming up with Wake Forest Athletics to bring the tailgate straight to you. You can now pre-order your tailgate meal, and Little Richard's will have it hot, fresh, and ready for pickup at a Legacy Stadium when you arrive. Elevate your game day and your taste buds with custom tailgate packages featuring all your Little Richard's favorites. Call or order online now at littlerichardsbarbecue.com. Go Deacs.
Stan Cotton here for Roger Marion Automotive. Roger and his staff have been taking care of me and my family and our cars and trucks for years. From tune-ups to oil changes to a state inspection or that weird sound your engine's making that you can't quite figure out. Roger Marion Automotive can handle whatever issue your vehicle has and get you back on the road with confidence and at a very fair price. Roger Marion Automotive between I-40 and 421 across from West Forsyth High School. Roger Marion Automotive, the only choice for any fan of the Demon Deacons.
The home of the Deacs.
Intercepted by Wake Forest at the 32-yard line.
This is Wake Forest football from Learfield.
For up-to-date breaking news on the Deacs, there's no better source than GoDeacs.com, the official website of Wake Forest Athletics. GoDeacs.com provides detailed content of results of all Deacon sports teams, with innovative photos, live game and coaches show broadcasts, and in-depth interviews about the Deacons. GoDeacs.com is your complete online source for sports news when you just have to know. Visit GoDeacs.com and make it your homepage each time you log on to the internet. Go to the source, GoDeacs.com.
A golf instructor who knows technique can improve an aspiring pro's swing. But one who really cares can help transform a career.
There he is, your new champion.
When you team up with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. At Truist, we believe the same is true for banking. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. Truist Bank, member FDIC, leading based on top 10 U.S. commercial bank.
Listening to the Jake Dickert Show. Ask your question to the head coach of the Deacs right now. Email your questions to wakeradio@learfield.com. Now back to the voice of the Deacs, Stan Cotton.
Okay, we roll along here on this Thursday night. We've got a Frost Buddy XL winner. Let's go out to the crowd here. Tegan, take it away.
My question to Coach Dickert.
You got to introduce you. I know who you are. You got to tell us who you are.
Sterling Carter. I was waiting for the GM to get up here because you told me he was the man.
He is the man.
I want to know about the freshman defensive lineman, in particular, Mr. Pratt from Texas, and if you can elaborate on any of the other freshmen in their progress as being a freshman. That's my question.
That's a great question because I think there's a lot of guys, I like to tell them this, like, you have no time. Sometimes as a freshman, they get in this moment, I'm redshirting, but I'm going to wait till January before I'm putting in the work. Josiah Pratt is who you're alluding to. We recruited Josiah out of Summer Creek in Houston. Kadir Mbele is also a great defensive lineman. He is going to be phenomenal. We got a bunch of young guys. Elliott DeMaine. He's been just really good at offensive line. I mean, these guys and the size that we're going to put on them in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months is going to be strong. and we have to be great at the line of scrimmage. Okay, Aiden Martin would be another one. We have 2 young twin towers at tackle that are really playing backup roles, and they're getting a lot of big-time reps, and they're going to be ready for some football games. So Jamar Searcy, a young running back, has been exceptional so far. Steele Pizzella, a young quarterback that I think is going to be a guy that can really lead this football team into the future. There's a lot of young guys that you will start to see as the season goes, and obviously football is a rough game. Some injuries happen. But really excited about our young guys at the line of scrimmage because that's where we're going to need to win. So I appreciate that question.
Coach, we're going to talk to, Rob Schlager in just a little bit. A question about your management style with regard to not only your assistant coaches but your staff. What's it like working for Jake Dickert?
Oh, that'd be a great question for this man.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I know this. It's, it's a family, and we got to trust each other. One thing that we do and we talk about is we talk about the 117, and there's 117 people and their families that are connected to my contract, right? So I use this number to understand, guys, there is no such thing as a small decision. It affects all of us, and everything we do I think is very, very important. Rob, as the general manager, I like to tell him he's my boss, right? I think that's the new college football. But at the end of the day, we make a lot of big-time decisions together, and it is about people, finding the right people in your program, in your organization. It starts with the staff. It trickles down into the support staff. But that's what we're trying to accumulate is players, not just with talent, right, but tons of passion and energy that want to live to a high standard and love the game of football. That's one thing that's going to be really, really important as we continue to identify the guys that can win. And not just win in football, win in life, win in the classroom, win in their relationships, win in whatever they want to do is because they have a fire, passion, and energy for going out there and competing. And we got to identify those guys in a quick way. And I thought we've done a really good job. We have, one of the highest ranked classes so far, and I don't get into rankings in Wake Forest history. Right now we got some guys committed to us that are in the top 300 in the country. So excited about the class that we are building and what that means for our future in the long term. We're here for the long haul.
On X, Brian with a question that's related to working with coaches. He's interested to know how you operate during a ball game, actively interacting with coordinators, question mark. What are your priorities once the game starts?
Well, it's a great question. I learned this from John Stiglmeyer, a legendary head coach at South Dakota State. My position group, because I don't coach a position, right, are the assistant coaches.
Okay.
Right? These guys are my position group. So what do you do with those guys? You give them feedback. You tell them what they're doing well. You tell them where they can improve. You challenge them. And I think you do it in a respectful working environment where people really kind of embody. And when you bring energy to it, I think you get the best out of people. I think Rob would tell me all the time, sometimes when things go your way, you can't grind people to a pulp. You got to encourage them. You got to bring them up. You got to, make sure you're showing the support for them. Because as coaches, we got a lot of things going on in our lives that we don't address and talk about a lot. And it isn't just coaching, right? It's family, it's challenges, it's all those different type of things. So in game, it's about solving problems, not starting problems, right? And we're very emotional, competitive people. So when you're out there and, let's say we're not doing what we want to do or the quarterback makes a mistake, I can go yell at him, right? I can go get after his coach. But are we solving problems? I think that's what the greatest coaches do on game day. I think that's what I encourage all of our guys to do. And you got to understand your people in that moment. There's some kids that can understand the challenge. There's some coaches, that can take a little bit of a chewing and it motivates them and keeps them going. And there's some that you can't, right? So leadership is about understanding your personnel better than anyone else can. So I think that's what we like to do on game day. We talk through adjustments. I'm a reminders guy. Hey, during the week, we loved X, Y, and Z. Let's get back to that. Or, hey, I'm seeing this on the iPad. What's our answer for these things? And I try to let these guys do their jobs. And I think that's very important. I think that's why, people show up energized to be their best every day.
Real quickly, and after this, we'll take the time out. I know that Rob was a GA under you at Wyoming.
I have to tell this story.
Okay.
I have to tell this story. This is an amazing story. Okay, so we're interviewing for a graduate assistant at Wyoming, right? And we got all these guys, and we're on Zoom before Zoom this is 2017. And we're interviewing him. He has a whiteboard behind him. He has 37 different colors of markers just in case he needed to draw a board around the marker. And he's already killing the interview, and then he finishes with this. He goes, guys, because he's on Zoom, I'm not looking for this ring. I'm looking for this ring, alluding to a championship ring. What a line. What a line. So, and then he's like, then he signed off. All of us coaches were like, oh, we're hiring that guy. Like, we were like blown away. We started laughing, celebrating. I'll never forget that. And by the way, his fiance is here, Rachel and Rob.
Nice.
So really, really excited about him finding that other phase of his life. So we're chasing both rings after this summer, right, Rob?
We'll give you a little break, and Rob, you work your way up here into the hot seat, and we'll talk a little GM stuff with you and learn. I don't know what to ask you because I don't know what you do. So we're going to learn about how it's done at Wake Forest, because all GM roles I think are probably kind of different, right?
They're very different. And real quick before we get to break, it was one of the biggest things we talked about with John Curry is like our plan for scouting and GM and the new era of just completely revitalizing that. So he'll go through his whole department, which isn't just him. It's a lot of people and a lot of work that goes into what we're doing nowadays.
And before we get to Rob, we'll remind you that you can upgrade your tailgate this year with Little Richard's Barbecue. New this year, again, you can pre-order all that good stuff from Little Richard's menu and pick it up on site at a Legacy Stadium with your tailgate order hot and ready to go. Available at every Wake Forest home game. Let Little Richard's handle the tailgate menu so you can focus on the game day fun. Little Richard's Barbecue, your winning tailgate starts here. All right, a timeout, and Wake's general manager, Rob Schlager, is next as you listen to the Jake Dickert Show from Learfield.
At Vibe, we design spaces where people heal, learn, and work, whether it's surgery centers, libraries, or residence halls. As respected partners of Wake Forest University and Wake Forest Athletics, we're creating environments where champions are made on and off the field. From the classroom to the locker room, our team brings out the best in yours. Ready to elevate your game? Visit vibedesign.com. That's Vibe with 2 I's. Vibe, creating environments for well-being.
Hungry for something new and unforgettable? Sage and Salt Bistro has you covered. Check out Sage and Salt Bistro's latest edition, Tuscany by Sage and Salt, a northern Italian steakhouse serving homemade pasta and premium cuts of beef. From exciting weekly specials to their latest culinary venture, there's always a reason to come back. Whether it's Sage and Salt Bistro, The Station, or Tuscany, you're in for a world-class local dining experience. Visit sageandsaltbistro.com and plan your next night out today.
Go Deeks!
Into the clear, 10-5, and touchdown!
This is the Wake Forest Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey everyone, this is Tate Carney, running back with the Wake Forest football team. In a football game, there's no one call that is right for every situation. Lucky for Demon Deacon fans, when it comes to your home's heating, cooling, and plumbing and electrical issues, just one call to Sutton Brothers can do it all. Sutton Brothers expert technicians will assess your situation, determine the best game plan, and then fix the problem. So when you need help with your heating, cooling, plumbing, or electrical systems, remember that one call to Sutton Brothers does it all.
Caller, what's your question for the coach?
Last week I noticed Wake played better when I stood on one leg, faced the quad, and drank a glass of the finest Pepsi. So for this week's game, should I drink my Pepsi in the first quarter to bring the Deeks luck early or late so we finish strong? Coach, I'm hoping you'll say both, but I wanted to ask because when I drink Pepsi obviously impacts our games. Thanks, and go Deeks!
Pepsi, proud partners of Demon Deacons football and believers in Lucky fans everywhere. Pepsi, made for football watching. Go Deeks!
Welcome back to the Jake Dickert Show. It's time now for tonight's Play of the Week, presented by WXLV ABC 45.
Here is the boot, a high tumbler. It comes down, it's not that deep. Taken by Barnes to the 5, 10, right side, 15, 20, near side, 25, 30, 35, 40 to midfield, down the left sideline to the 40, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, pay dirt. Open the gate. Touchdown, Wake Forest on the first play of the ball game. Chris Barnes.
Shocker, we use that as the play of the game this week, right? Brought to you by ABC 45 News, giving you more coverage and dedication to what matters to you, and no wait weather with Jonathan Wendt. ABC 45 News standing up for you. All right, the aforementioned Rob Schlager, the GM for Wake Forest football, is with us. And what's it like, you guys, and everybody's working right toward the same goal all spring? I know you got here in January. You've been here about 8 months or whatever. And then you get into game week, you work, and then the opening kickoff gets taken back. What kind of energy flows through your veins when that kind of play unfolds on the first play of the game?
Well, ironically, I actually don't watch the game.
Okay.
I don't. So I'm at the facility, and I have complete control over what I want to do, which is going to be evaluate.
You can turn on the radio.
I can. That's what I used to do as a coach's kid.
Okay.
I get so my dad and some of the calls, and ultimately I'd have to go back and listen to that. But during the games, it's a way for me to just, stay emotionally stable, rational in thought process, and I can evaluate the following day from a rational perspective as well, going into where we are, but where we need to be, the valuations, both when it comes to who we have in personnel, but also futuristically in terms of that new rev share cap too. So I spend a lot of time doing that. There's a lot of high school games to be evaluated on a weekly basis too, so that takes up a lot of time. And then, at times I'll end up turning the TV on just to see where it is. It's not going well. The nice thing is I can just walk in the indoor. Beautiful facility, So,
yeah.
But yeah.
Coach, tell that great story about your interview there at Wyoming. So you get on staff with the Cowboys there, and you're working with Coach Dickert. What was it about the relationship, do you think, that has you here as his GM? Obviously, he has great confidence in you, and you guys work well together.
We do. I mean, it's been a very strong partnership, and beyond just the professional perspective, it's been personal from just a brotherhood. And it really started in that 2017 season. And, the trust level that was gained. And trust is big for us. And, when you look at it from a truth-telling perspective, we have that type of relationship where we can tell each other the hard truths. Okay, what it is and what it needs to be in process. But even more importantly, we're both truth listeners in process as to where we need to go collectively as one. And then, there's a lot of, common understanding and ultimately a common objective, understand that he is a worker. I never felt going into that job at Wyoming there was someone that would outwork me or was capable of that. And when I met him, was around him, and we worked together at the defensive secondary there, ultimately I had learned that that's the guy that if he's ever head coach, that's the only man that I'd want to work for. And it was a process throughout that time from the point I got there all the way through to when I left him the first time, which was hard enough as it was. But, he made the call to have me come back at Washington State with that first opportunity. And that gives me just an inclination of that deep trust level that we have together, but also the common ground that we stand on within the standards that we live by, but also work by to reach that common objective.
Your role here as general manager, does it differ at all from what you did at Washington State? Any difference there, or did you bring a model maybe from the West Coast to here in the ACC?
Yeah, very comparable model, and that's just what we know foundationally speaking. For me, it's not about what we do with what we have; it's how we do it with who we have. So the most important aspect of this, as Coach already alluded to, is the people. So some of those people back there that work alongside me in the recruiting department and the scouting department, very blessed to have them by my side. And again, from a segmented capacity, we have a scouting department and a recruiting department separate. Scouting, identification, evaluation, recruiting, acquisition. And then there comes development once we get them on the roster, and then the plan of action to consistently do so as we're continuing to build foundationally through the high school model. Yes, we signed a lot of transfer prospects. We had to with what were left void. That's the case. Moving forward, predominantly speaking, we just have not lived in that realm. We're going to go back to the high school model, and ultimately we're going to have those transfers in a free agency type capacity where those immediate voids that we got to fill with impact, we got to take advantage of that. But beyond that, the high school market is what led us to this place as well and what we're able to build at Washington State. So why not carry that back over from a philosophical perspective?
Couple of minutes here with Wake Forest GM Rob Schlager. We'll take a quick time out. We've got a question on Twitter from Scott for Rob. We'll get to that right after you hear this as you listen to Wake Forest football and the Jake Dickert Show from Learfield.
When it comes to local news, you can rely on ABC 45 News. There to cover your story.
Just had to take a stand. We should be compensated way more than we are.
There to get you answers.
It still leaves so much anxiety because it's like we don't know what happened.
There in your community.
We need to help out the people in our community who are struggling.
And there with your no-wait weather.
This area is producing some severe weather tonight.
ABC 45 News, weeknights at 6 and 11. Standing up for you.
The fans came out today, David.
That's right, Gabe. Big games mean bigger tailgates.
Check out that Ford F-150 truck, a championship caliber performance.
Oh, flawless execution, Gabe. Smart, powerful, and with available Pro Power on board, F-150 just took this tailgate over the top.
Game on, David. For the latest offers on Ford F-150, go to buyfordnow.com to see your Carolina Ford dealer today. See owner's manual for important operating instructions.
The Deeks live here.
Got it. Touchdown, Wake Forest.
This is the Wake Forest Sports Network from Learfield.
Claiborne, Wildcat, takes the snap, hands the ball left, a throw downfield, pass caught by Claiborne at the 10, 5, touchdown, Wake Forest. What a play by the Deeks. Razzle, dazzle into the north end zone.
Hey, Deke fans, Coach Jake Dickert here. Looking for the ultimate game day spot? Head to Miller's Sports Bar on Robin Hood, where the wings are hot, the beer is cold, and every seat has a view. Catch all the action, all the time, only at Miller's.
There's the snap and give to Claiborne. Pulls its way in. Touchdown, Wake.
Wake Forest football returns to a Legacy Stadium on Saturday, September 27th to take on conference rival Georgia Tech. Limited tickets remain. Order yours today at godeeks.com/tickets. We'll see you at a Legacy Stadium on Saturday, September 27th as the Deeks take on the Yellow Jackets. Go Deeks.
Welcome back to the Jake Dickert Show. Want your question answered by the coach? Our inbox is available at wakeradio@learfield.com or tweet at Stan Cotton WF. Now back to your host, Stan Cotton.
We'll get back to Rob Schlager in just a second. Tonight's broadcast brought to you in part by R.J. Young, your playbook for more than just copiers. Their cutting-edge solutions cover security systems, business phones, and managed IT and AV technology for your organization. Schedule your free consultation right now at rjyoung.com/Wake Forest. All right, we continue our chat with Wake Forest GM Rob Schlager and Scott with a question off of Twitter. He says, Coach, hopefully the vote for 1 January portal will pass, and it did yesterday. What positive changes or negative will that bring to the coaches and staff and players? And then are there any discussions, actions ahead to limit the times that players can transfer? Scott, thanks as always for the question. All right, what do you say?
Well, to start, number one, to solidify your squad for the season. I think that is critical, especially at that point. You have further developmental opportunities throughout the course of the winter into the spring, and really you don't want to be dealing with some portal entries of your roster come the spring in an unanticipated capacity. So, that's number one for me. Number two, another positive, I think there's more time for negotiation purposes when it comes to the contracts and the current roster in December. The previous portal periods, there's been multiple for one, but two, those portal entries have started right after the season, about a week and a half after. We have a little more time to sit down with our players and make sure that we take process in retaining those guys first. And then from the second perspective, in December, we're very targeted in volume and value, both positionally and monetarily, as to where we're going to go for the number of acquisitions we plan on making at the mid-year. Okay, so really that comes from a system of tiering and thresholding and having a value on every single player in the country and preparation for them to enter the portal when the time comes. When it does, we know who we want to go after, and ultimately that's when, some of those bidding wars start. But for us in that 10-day period, it's being advanced, it's being prepared, and ultimately having those guys set in stone for what's to come in that 10-day minimal window. Thirdly, okay, I think contract window alleviation in a way too. I mean, just depends on where the contract sits. We don't necessarily have to worry about that when that time does come in terms of where it's set. Okay, now some of the negatives, I'll say, the application admittance process into school, especially for grad transfers too, is not typically conducive in that regard. It's not, so we have to be very cognizant of that and plan ahead as to how we got to work that process through. I also think, I plan on being in a bowl game, so in terms of bowl games, there's 10 ACC bowl games after Christmas that lead up a week in advance to that portal. Not a lot of time for the current roster and getting that configured as well. And then another negative, I think, chaos ensued from just the minimal length of only being one period. And that one period, I'm still all for. Just a matter of the timeline of it. And Coach has made a great point, too. It's just I think we need a preliminary period in December that prefaces that period so we're prepared to bring him on campus, and that would be, again, more beneficial holistically, not just for the staff, but also for the prospect as well, and there's no specific limits as part of the, second part of the question that we've seen. You still have the 30-day window after a firing, okay, and that's happened with a couple of those coaches as of late. Virginia Tech's already had a couple of kids go into the portal, okay, and then ultimately, there's a 5-day window for those CFP teams that after the 7th, they get additional time to go into the portal too, which, we'll have a little time from the start of our undergrad process, but once again, our grad school process, that's going to be a tight window for us. But there's positives and negatives to both. For us, it's to see the positive light in it, have a plan of action, attack that plan of action, and go acquire what we need to take that next step next year.
Good stuff. And finally, what time flies. I could talk about this all day because the landscape of college football has changed so dramatically over the last several years that requires a position like this. And you get to come in and bring a similar model from Washington State, but you get to tweak it a little bit. You get to have, people under you doing, all different kinds of things. And I know it's kind of a work in progress, right, as you guys work through this first year.
Right, it is. And it's, like I said, 40 plus acquisitions at the mid-year period, significant. And it's what we had to do, and it's what we did do. And ultimately, we had a plan of action going into it. I still recall the day of Coach's presser. Ms. Katie, Russ, our assistant GM, and I, we sat down for 7 hours to talk about our current personnel before we went into that plan of action as to who we're going to acquire, who we're going to target that was left, and really the second, third, and fourth wave of the window itself too. But it really just starts with the inside-out process of how we build, not only in construction of the roster itself, having a dominant front on both sides of the ball, but also inside out in terms of the footprint. The Quinn State footprint is as vast as it gets in talent. A lot of volume, very dense. You're talking North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee. And then we just continue to branch out. In conjunction with that, just working our order evaluation. And Coach talked on it a little bit too in terms of the big words. Anthropometrics is what gives us indication of what that biomechanic is going to look like as well. But the anthros is just, we look at body types, prototypes, dimensions. Okay, ultimately, femur length, want to see, and bend distribution. That's critical. The longer the femur, the more hindered the bend distribution for an offensive lineman. We can't do it. The knee circumference, Falili Famoy, he came in at 210 pounds at Washington State with a 19-inch knee, and he ends up being 315 pounds right now. Okay, so that process of projection is what we believe in at the very forefront of the process, going into the biomechanics. The mover's got to be functional, and there's got to be some easy movement and bend to ensure that we don't have any hindrance in development throughout that process. The skill set's critical, and that's where we look at the acquisition from a supplemental and substitutional value. We know what we have in a Chris Barnes. He's obviously the explosive mighty might we got in multiplicity as a returner and as a slot. But ultimately, what opens up more space and for that speed is going to be an outside vertical stretcher. Supplemental value to add to the roster to allow him to really operate with more space, with more one-on-ones because of that stretch of the field. And then we get to the schematic fit, ensuring that power spread and who we acquire within that realm is aligned with what we look for positionally. And then lastly, that intellectual intensity. We have an advantage. mentally speaking, just in processing, but processing the information of a higher IQ than the rest of this league. We should be able to take advantage of that too, but do so in a physical foundation and a physical brand of ball to ensure that we're dominating up front, and that goes along those intangibles. But that's just an abbreviated, look at how we process in the order evaluation through the footprint itself too. And if we don't have 5-6 hours of talk and dissertation, that's all I can talk about right now. So,
show of hands, who thinks Rob could teach gross anatomy over at Bowman Gray? Everybody's hands up. Yeah, listen, appreciate it. I know we'll have you back and talk more about this stuff as again, the landscape continues to evolve and change. It's fascinating stuff. We appreciate your time tonight, and have a great off weekend, and good luck against Georgia Tech.
Oh, thank you.
There he is, the general manager of Wake Forest football, Roger Slayer. Quick timeout. Coach Dickert back on the other side as you listen to Wake Forest football from Learfield.
A golf instructor who knows technique can improve an aspiring pro's swing. But one who really cares can help transform a career.
There he is, your new champion.
When you team up with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. At Truist, we believe the same is true for banking. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. Truist Bank, member FDIC, leading based on top 10 U.S. commercial bank.
Line pass is going to be caught after a battle at the 20, down to the 10, 5, touchdown, Wake Forest.
Hey, Deke fans, it's your coach, Jake Dickert here. As you prepare for the tailgate season, remember to bring along some Pepsi. There's something special about tailgating in Deektown with your friends, eating some great food, and drinking some ice-cold Pepsi. It's the perfect way to get ready to cheer on the team to victory. Go Deeks!
Wake Forest tailgating is always better with Pepsi.
Coverage of Demon Deacon football continues after these local messages. This is Wake Forest football from Learfield.
What? New scratch-offs are out? That means new chances to become a North Carolina Education Lottery Winners Club member.
Yeah, in the Winners Club, I'll reinvent myself. I won't go by just plain Todd. I'll go by Toddrick. I'll get a gold jacket, play my saxophone again. I'll stop and smell the flowers, call my mom more.
Ugh, wrap it up, Todd.
It's Toddrick.
This month's scratch-offs pack over $78 million in total prizes. The Winners Club awaits. Must be 18 to play. Approximate overall odds of winning range from 1 in 3.76 to 4.98. Crowd and gambling hotline 877-718-5543.
Hey there, food lovers. If you're looking for a dining experience that's both delicious and local, check out Sage and Salt Bistro. They use fresh, locally sourced ingredients to create amazing house-made dishes from scratch. Don't forget to explore their award-winning wine list and craft cocktails, perfect companions to your meal. And at their second location, The Station at Sage and Salt, you can enjoy live jazz and blues every Friday and Saturday night from 7 to 10 p.m. Visit sageandsaltbistro.com to make a reservation today and taste the difference local makes.
Listening to the Jake Dickert Show. Ask your question to the head coach of the Deeks right now. Email your questions to wakeradio@learfield.com. Now back to the voice of the Deeks, Stan Cotton.
Okay, I said second half hour roll. We're almost done. We're on the way. But time to talk a little defense here. Presented by our friends at Mountcastle Insurance, proudly protecting the Triad with trusted coverage since 1890. All right, the defensive side of the ball. And again, we've talked about, they had some offensive weapons that were kind of hard to keep in check. Your take on how your defense played?
Well, let's just look at the conglomerate of really the first 3 weeks. I think as we look at it, what we've proven to be is an elite at stopping explosive plays. We're in the top 3 in the country in explosive play rate, and I think that's hard to do. It isn't always like attention grabbing, and then we're talking about plays that are over 20-plus yards. When you really look at the analytics, and Rob gave you a little taste that we're very analytical, right, in the numbers and the sizes and how we do it personnel-wise, but also, how we look at our offense and defense. And, I think that's been the biggest part. We've stayed over the top of things. And I think even, Bailey, I think an 18-yard rush, in the second quarter or whatever it was, and, hey, that's a big play out the door. But at the end of the day, our guys are doing a really good job staying over the top. Where we want to improve on, second and long. There's a bunch of times in the NC State game, we got them into second and long through some TFLs and getting them behind the chains. and we let them out of it in certain capacities. We had the one sack, I believe, in the third quarter, which was big to kind of force a punt. So we had some moments where we're playing good, solid football. Frank Cassano has been a really big positive. Aiden Hall has been a really big positive. Nick Anderson is like that guy that's just that stalwart to the defense. Devon Patterson is a pro. Braylon Johnson filled in for Rushan Tung, who will be out. So there's a lot of good individual performances that we're putting together. We just were never able in the NC State game, Stan, to win that one-on-one at that one big moment. And give them credit, they made a bunch of big plays, but I think our guys learned from it. And I think defensively, and I think even as a corner, you can't be worried about giving up the big one. Let's go challenge them. I think our guys have enough confidence now to go play together and go make their play. And I think, like I said, we'll be better of it because of it. The guys pressed a little bit in that fourth quarter, and some veteran guys even, and we'll learn and get better from it.
You made a comment about 15 minutes ago about State's offensive line. Mike has a question about just your general take about the line of scrimmage and how that fight went for 4 quarters.
Well, what I didn't give probably enough credit to, just as good as their offensive line was, but we call it like their rabbits package, right? When they got us behind the chains, they brought in 4 pass rushers. And I thought that was, one part of the game where I thought they had a good advantage, and they had 4 guys that could really get after it. Our MO, Stan, will never be, hey, we're going to come in and drop back and pass 80 times a game. It just isn't the way we're built. That's not the way we want to play. So when we got down 10 late in the fourth quarter, those guys were allowed to attack us. So we got to be better in the 2-minute drill. There's certain things that we got to, work on in that capacity. But I thought for the most part we were good, but not enough to go out there and dominate the line of scrimmage and go grind out a victory.
Final timeout, final few questions for Coach Dickert tonight, and then we'll wrap it up. And next week we move on to Wake and Georgia Tech here in Winston-Salem. Another home game, looking forward to that. Final timeout, and we'll wrap it up with the coach right after you hear this.
Football season is here, and the fall months are approaching, but it's still warm. That means pests like ants, roaches, and mosquitoes are still out in full force. Luckily, you can trust the pros at Stark Exterminators to keep your home, business, and tailgate pest-free. The professionals at Stark understand that it is not just any property, it is your home or business, and they will inspect, identify, and then treat with a solution that is customized for you. Schedule your free pest inspection today. Call 855-STARK now or visit StarkExterminators.com.
Hey Demon Deacon fans, are you ready to level up your tailgate? This season, Little Richard's Barbecue is teaming up with Wake Forest Athletics to bring the tailgate straight to you. You can now pre-order your tailgate meal, and Little Richard's will have it hot, fresh, and ready for pickup at a Legacy Stadium when you arrive. Elevate your game day and your taste buds with custom tailgate packages featuring all your Little Richard's favorites. Call or order online now at littlerichardsbarbecue.com. Go Deeks.
The home of the Deeks.
Intercepted by Wake Forest at the 32-yard line.
This is Wake Forest football from Learfield.
Hey, Deacon fans, this is Wake Forest running back Jamar Claiborne.
There's the snap and give to Claiborne. Pulls his way in. Touchdown, Wake.
When your car calls for an audible, don't get stuck on the sideline. Get back in the game with Roger Marion Automotive. Their team knows how to tackle tune-ups, state inspections, oil changes, and any other problems your car or truck throws your way. Go see Roger and Coleman on Louisville Clemens Road near West Forsyth High School. That's Roger Marion Automotive. Serve the Demon Deacons fans for over 25 years. Go Deeks.
At Vibe, we design spaces where people heal, learn, and work, whether it's surgery centers, libraries, or residence halls. As respected partners of Wake Forest University and Wake Forest Athletics, we're creating environments where champions are made on and off the field. From the classroom to the locker room, our team brings out the best in yours. Ready to elevate your game? Visit vibedesign.com. That's Vibe with 2 I's. Vibe, creating environments for well-being.
Okay, back for our final few minutes, as promised, with the coach of the Deeks, Jake Dickert, as we wind up bye week and think about next week in Georgia Tech. We're back here next Thursday night. By the way, a lot of you folks were on campus last week,
yes,
and we appreciate that.
That was awesome.
Last week, or the week prior to that, I said, please come to campus. And a lot of you did that. And we appreciate you doing that. We're back here next Thursday, and then Georgia Tech and Wake at noon. Some questions, Coach, that came in here. This will be our Greenway Village Dental question of the night. Take care of that beautiful smile of yours, because you deserve a beautiful smile. This asks if you take time to watch much NFL football so you can know a little bit about the landscape of the game that Rob is assuming that your players want to play.
Yeah.
So how much about, I see scouts at practice all the time, obviously that everybody, but how much engaged are you at all with the NFL so you can talk NFL with your guys?
Well, I would say this. If this was held in my office behind me, you would see my foam cheese head. I'm a Packers guy.
I'm sure you are.
And now we're looking like we're the best team in football, so it's really good. But saying that, I watch zero NFL. I actually really don't. It's weird. I don't actually enjoy the game. I think the pace of it is slow. I think the schematics are different. I love college football and just how complicated it is. Now, when it gets into playoffs, it gets later in the year, I'll watch a ton of it. Now, what I love doing is tracking our guys. And the one thing about, we talked about with Rob, our development in this process has located tons of guys. And those guys, to see them go out there and have success. I mean, we have 3 NFL DBs that we recruited at Washington State. One of our offensive linemen from last year is with the Jets. Obviously Cam Ward. There'll be more of these guys in the next few cycles. So when you see it go all the way through and you see a kid live out their dreams, that's what we're here for. And I just think we want to help young people get their stand. What I don't like is I think there's a poison that people put on young people and say, oh, you're going to play in the NFL. Well, the 1% of the 1% of the 1% do it. So let's worry about being great at Wake Forest. Let's identify ourselves something more than just football. But I share in their passion for wanting to play at the highest level.
And by the way, for you folks that are here, when we are through, trivia is going to start here at Miller's, and the first little bit's going to be Wake Forest themed. So you got a chance maybe there to go home with some cool stuff. Kelly with a question, and you touched on this the first half hour, but he asks it a little differently. How have the first 3 games prepared you for the next 3 coming up? And 2 of those are on the road.
Well, I think as an ultimate competitor, you want to see things maybe that your flaws, and you want to go out there and work towards getting better. Our standard is always to deliver your best. And my message to the guys is our standard can never be too high. We got to meet that daily. And I think our guys, that's part of built in the dark. You got to see your flaws. You got to be mature enough to say, hey, I got to work on this, and then go out there and do it. So we can't talk about play entry in the run game and not go fix it. We can't talk about being better at third down on defense and not go out and fix it. We can't talk about being better, whatever phase of special teams and not go out there and do it. So I think we've done a really good job this week in the bye week plus, right, the extra days to go out there and identify things we need to get better at. And I love football. I love coaching. That's coaching. And that's what we talked about with our staff. Be energized by it. The narrative is really important, guys. It's really important, okay? And the narrative is we played with a team that's been together for 13 years, and that's the product, and we've been here for 8 months. People left us for dead, Stan. We were supposed to be 4-8. We lost 18 starters. We got here December 20th. We were supposed to be terrible. And guess what? That's not what the Deeks are. And they're going to be tough out in this league, and we're going to be ultra competitive, and our guys want to keep getting better, and that energizes me. What I saw this week should energize everybody. They don't get to see what I see. But I mean that. They're going to watch our tape and go, man, we chalked up Wake as a win. We better strap on our helmets because it's not going to be that easy. That's what last week taught us. I'm disappointed with the result. I'm disappointed in that second half. But we're going to be a better football team because of it. Now, we got to be mature enough to go out there and get better because Georgia Tech, they're real, and we're excited about the opportunity coming here to Legacy Stadium.
I was going to say, give me 30 seconds on Georgia Tech off to a terrific start. It's a tough football team.
You watch opponents and you say, what is their identity? Okay, when you watch Georgia Tech, it's easy to see physicality and toughness. It comes from the head coach. He's an offensive lineman. He's been there for a long time. He preaches it. You don't touch that field for that team if you don't play hard, right? So this is a team that's playing hard, that's maximizing their ability, and plays with ultra confidence. So we got to match that with execution, and our guys will be ready to play.
Coach, thanks for your time. Rob, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you back here next Thursday for the Jake Dickert Show, Millers on Robin Hood. Have a great weekend. So long and go Deeks.
Go Deeks.
Health Weight